These are some of the most disturbing crimes that happen in the amazing digital circus community, and as the video goes on, they go from misguided fan behavior to something that had real people living in fear for their lives. The amazing digital circus fandom has one of the most active fan communities online. They make art, cosplay the characters, discuss lore theories, and follow every episode closely. But that same passion, when it goes completely unchecked, can spiral into something that puts innocent people in danger. And this is exactly what happened on December 12, 2025, when the studio behind it dropped episode 7 of the amazing digital circus titled Beach Episode. Now the show itself was created by Gooseworks, whose real name is Cooper Smith Goodwin, a 31-year-old animator and writer who first made a name for herself in 2019 when her short film called Little Runmo went viral. She's also known for composing the songs and coming up with some original character themes for the show Harassment Hotel. Now her work eventually led to her teaming up with the Australian independent animation studio called Glitch Productions in 2022, where pre-production for the amazing digital circus officially kicked off in the middle of that year. And on October 13, 2023, a year later, the pilot for the show went live on the studio's YouTube channel and reached 100 million views in a single month, which was massive for an independent company with no major network or streaming platform behind its making. The people who watched it really got into its plot. The amazing digital circus is set inside a colorful virtual world where a group of humans are trapped, and each of them hides a darker backstory beneath their humor. Now fans got attached to the characters quickly, and discussions around the show's lore became a big part of the community. Now out of everyone in the show, viewers were most curious about Jax, a sarcastic blue rabbit who always seemed like someone with a story he never planned on sharing. Now voiced by Michael Kovac, Jax is portrayed as cruel and funny, but because of the secrecy he'd been showing, fans had been trying to figure out his backstory since the beginning, and that questions regarding Jax's past would finally get a hint in episode 7. In the episode, there's a scene where Jax is hyperventilating during a panic attack, while having intense flashbacks. And during this, real-life photographs and clips of a suburban neighborhood and a street flash on the screen, for a split second multiple times. Now most fans simply thought of it as a creative storytelling choice and kept watching, but a smaller group of them paused to look closer, with comments under Reddit posts about the episode saying things like, "I'm not good at GeoGuessr, but I'm desperately trying to find the location." And soon, many fans were going through the footage frame by frame, cross-referencing their backgrounds and street layouts against Google Maps Street View. And within the same day, they successfully matched images to a real neighborhood and started tracing a route from there as well. And 3 days later, on December 15th, an unnamed fan called out Cooper on Blue Sky, the platform which works similarly to X, where Cooper was the most active at the time. The fan commented on one of Cooper's posts saying, "Sorry Goose, this is random and irrelevant, but do the clips of real life in episode 7 like mean anything? Because TikTok has already doxed the whole neighborhood and the route to New Jersey from there, so is it important to the plot or no?" And not even an hour later, Cooper replied, "It's not. Holy, don't do that." Now fans had figured out that the house was in Missouri and the road was in New Jersey, and it wasn't long before Google Maps screenshots of both locations were circulating on TikTok. The community was talking about possibly visiting the spots themselves, with some even asking for the specific location. "Where? I need the exact address." And then a day later, on December 16th, a Reddit user named Splits Personalities posted a warning on the amazing digital circus subreddit with a post titled, "Please stop doxing neighborhoods," and included the screenshot of Cooper's comment on Blue Sky as evidence of how far things had gone. Split Personalities later wrote, "Even I was terrified when it started. As soon as I saw the IRL pics, I knew there would be trouble." And from the production side, there was no formal post or an explanation of any sort addressing the situation, beyond that one comment response by Cooper. And people in the comments couldn't believe she even had to say it, and they started listing what could go wrong. "Some fans are genuinely crazy. They will knock on each door and try to get in or something." The second post then appeared on Reddit, titled, "We went too far, myself included," written by a fan who went by the username Fans and Shy Bunny. In it, they admitted to posting theories about the locations, but promised to delete them. Fans then attached a screenshot of the Blue Sky comment thread that had been mentioned earlier, but this time it had a newer reply. A user named Forian Studios had asked Cooper, "What was the point of it, if not for the story?" And Cooper answered shortly after, "The filming location itself has nothing to do with the story, geologically, and it wasn't even filmed in the same state digital circus takes place in. It's just a visual, not an alternate reality game or scavenger hunt. Everything that's essential to the story will be presented in the show itself." Now after Cooper's response, some of the address posts came down, and no confirmed incidents were reported at either location. But the debate that followed split the community into two camps. Some fans argued that this was not really doxing at all, saying it would only apply when personal information like names and contact details were released, and that identifying a public street from a show is something different entirely. But many other fans disagreed, because finding the location is one thing, and what people do with it is another. This has happened before actually, and fans were quick to point that out. This fandom works as fast as Gravity Falls fans, I swear. The Gravity Falls community is probably the most well-known example of a fandom that got so deep into hunting for hidden codes and real-life secrets that some people generally lost track of where the show ended and reality began. Steam Universe fans once tracked down a real motel that appeared in the show and review bombed it into the ground. The Five Nights at Freddy's fandom harassed actual pizza restaurants through calls over fan theories, and it got bad enough that MadPat, a YouTuber known for his beloved and long-running pop culture analysis series called Game Theory, had to address the community directly. And then there's the Breaking Bad house in Albuquerque, a completely normal family home that still has strangers showing up to throw pizzas on the roof to this day, years after the show finished airing, and the family living there eventually had to put up a fence. Now in hindsight, a few people in the fandom knew that this would happen, and a user named dare_soft posted a question on the Reddit that most of them were already asking. How did Gooseworks legitimately not think that the fans would try to find the IRL locations when she's seen the horrors the fandom commits? But Cooper had already explained that the neighborhood was not a clue to anything at all. It was simply a way of showing that Jax had nobody waiting for him in the real world. But part of the fandom had decided that it was something to investigate instead. In this next case, however, the people involved had never once wondered about the story of a single character. They just watched the show hit millions of views and saw this as a chance to benefit from someone else's success.
From groceries to clothing, makeup to electronics, online shopping is changing the retail landscape. You get convenience, but you might not be getting what you're actually paying for.
By the time the amazing digital circus had reached international audiences and hit millions of views, brothers Kevin and Luke Lerichical had spent years building glitch productions from the ground up. Growing up in Sydney, Australia, the two of them had spent their afternoons after school working at their parents' food shop together. Kevin, the older of the two, was born in June 1994, and Luke came along 5 years later in May 1999. In 2009, at around 10 years old, Luke started experimenting with YouTube, uploading picture slideshows and recording glitches he found in Super Mario Sunshine. Then in May 2011, when Luke was just 11 years old, he took it a step further. After talking it over with Kevin, he started recording Super Mario 64 gameplays, dropping a meme-filled, chaotic version of Mario into absurd comedic storylines and adding text overlays on top. Now, the channel was called MSG4, short for Super Mario Glitchy 4, an independent fan-made parody built around the Super Mario characters. This series also included a character named Super Meme Guardian 4, who was based on Luke himself, and what started as a kid's hobby after school kept growing. By August 27, 2014, 3 years after he started the SMG4 series, the channel had passed 150,000 subscribers, and by October 2016, 2 years later, it hit 1 million. Now Kevin stepped in as the producer and head writer that same year, and together the two brothers turned what had been a hobby into a real operation that would soon lead to more milestones. And on May 27, 2017, just 7 months after hitting 1 million subscribers, they formally launched their studio, initially calling it Glitchy Boy, before rebranding it to Glitch Productions a year later in 2018. And since then, they started creating their own original animated series from scratch. Their first original series was called Meta Runner, and it was released on the 25th of July 2019, followed in 2020 by Murder Drones, a sci-fi action series that became a choice for a Webby Award, otherwise known as the Oscars of the Internet. Now this was one of the most respected honors for internet content, and the show received a nomination for Best Animated Video Series in 2023, 3 years after its release. And on October 13th of the same year, the amazing digital Circus launched, making Glitch the most subscribed independent animation studio on YouTube, with over 21 million subscribers. And the moment it did, something happened that Kevin and Luke should have seen coming. The show was everywhere, and so was the merchandise. And if you search for amazing digital Circus merchandise on different digital marketplaces like Amazon, AliExpress, Alibaba, or Temu, you would have found hundreds of listings, from shirts, hoodies, plush toys. There were all kinds of products with the cast of the show printed on them. Now the prices were reasonable, and fans believed that the products had been made with the studio's involvement. But none of it was. The sellers weren't affiliated with Glitch in any way. They had taken the characters, the logos, and the branding directly from the show and simply slapped them onto products manufactured as cheaply as possible. And when those products showed up at people's stores, there was no way for the buyer to know who to blame, because the listing had been designed to look like it came from the studio that made the show. And that damage landed on Glitch's reputation and revenue. And by the time Kevin and Luke had registered their trademarks with the US government between June 2023 and March 2024 for Murder Drones, the amazing digital Circus, and their brand of collectible figures called Animates, the counterfeiting had been going on for so long that there were already hundreds of stores to deal with. So by late 2024, they'd had enough. Starting November 19th, Glitch began filing a series of lawsuits in US federal courts, the highest level of courts in the country, against groups of counterfeit sellers. Each time they asked the courts to act without giving the shops advance notice. The reason behind it was simple. If sellers found a freeze on their accounts was coming, they could move their money overseas before it could be stopped. Now the courts agreed, and the account freezes began, meaning the sellers' marketplace funds and bank accounts were locked. Then, almost 5 months later, on April 7, 2025, the company filed their biggest case yet, listing 158 sellers in a federal court in Indiana. They asked for all of them to be shut down and their profits to be handed back. And on May 8th, a month later, the court granted every single request. And Glitch just kept going after their Indiana win, filing more cases and targeting new groups of counterfeit sellers across different courts. As of May 2026, the company's legal battles are still ongoing, but at least these sellers kept their distance. In the next case, someone went straight for the company itself.
You have any idea how hard it is covering crypto, covering meme coins, trying your best to tell people that you can be smart and make money in this space?
Back in September 2023, at Glitch Productions' livestream event called Glitch X, they announced an upcoming series called The Gaslight District, and this announcement alone was enough to get people talking. Fans started following it immediately, looking for any hint of what the show was going to be, and by early 2025, the anticipation around the series had only grown, and the Glitch's official Twitter account, @glitch_prod, was the main place fans went to for anything related to the studio and its projects. Now when a post came up, the community paid attention, and anything even remotely connected to the Gaslight District got engagement within hours of release. So on April 3rd, 2025, when fans opened the app and saw the studio reacting to a brand new X account called the Gaslight Coin with a pair of eye emojis, they stopped scrolling. This account was promoting an official cryptocurrency token for the Gaslight District, listed as $TGD. According to the post, the token was going to be featured throughout the animation itself, but included no method as to how it would appear in the show. But within minutes of the post going live, the Gaslight Coin account would be taken down by X support. But about an hour before the Glitch post ever went up, Kevin had already posted this from his personal account.
Hey y'all, the Glitch Twitter account @glitch_prod has been hacked. We've contacted the support to try and get this fixed, but for now assume any activity on that page isn't us.
This meant that Glitch had not posted any of them, as they were not in control of their own account. Now the warning had been out there the whole time, but Kevin's personal account was not where hundreds of thousands of fans went for Glitch news. Most people following the studio's account had no other reason to also be following his personal one, and so when the post of the coin promotion came up, it was unclear how many people may have already interacted with it before seeing Kevin's warning. Now a fan of the show named Not Charles Dion posted a warning on the Amazing Digital Circus subreddit.
Glitch Productions Twitter/X has been hacked. Do not fall for this.
Now some people still thought it might be a late April Fool's show, while others were frustrated, calling it another predictable crypto scam. But one fan had already fallen for it.
I just invested $500 into the coin and lost it all.
Now this would be the only comment we get from this person, and what happened to them after, whether they tried to get their money back or not, is unclear. Now within days, all of the tweets posted from when the studio was hacked were taken down by X support, and the studio's social media team were given back access. However, the hackers weren't done yet, because on April 8, 2025, 6 days later, they took control of Glitch's X account once more to promote a meme coin, a type of cryptocurrency based around internet trends that usually has no real value behind it.
Working with the team on launching our own Glitch meme coin.
Now between these two attacks, the Glitch account blocked Kevin's personal Twitter, so he couldn't see what the hackers were posting. The following day, April 9th, 2025, the owners of the Glitch account finally regained full access. And to prove it, they posted a piece of artwork for the Gaslight District that only the real team would have, with the caption,
PS frick crypto hackers.
Now there were no more fans who came out saying they'd fallen for the post, but the scam had run for a full week across 2 separate coin promotions, targeting all the fans who had every reason to trust what came from that account, and whoever was behind it was never identified. Now Glitch had dealt with bootleggers stealing their characters and hackers doing the same with their platform, but this next case is different, because what was taken was someone else's reputation, and that is not something you can get back with a single post.
Assure them that it's not their fault. Don't confront the alleged abuser. Explain to the that you're going to call someone that can help, and report your concerns to CAS.
Sean Chiplock is a 35-year-old voice actor best known in the Amazing Digital Circus community as the voice of King, who's the anxious, excitable chess piece who became one of the most beloved characters in the show. But his career actually went well beyond the circus. He'd also voiced Rivali in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and One-Shot Ren in SMG4. And for years, Sean had been carrying something with him that had nothing to do with any of those characters. It was an accusation, which started on July 1st, 2024, when an ex-user named Brinda made a post that reached nearly 4 million views.
When I was young, Sean Chiplock attempted to do stuff to a trans boy. The person there was my friend, but he left the internet, so the only person to tell the story is me.
She was speaking for a person named Casper, who was no longer active online. Casper had previously described an experience involving Sean, and Vina was now bringing that story back into the public view. But this was not a news story. The first time anyone mentioned it publicly was back in December 2013, when Casper wrote about it on DeviantArt, an art-sharing website. In the post, Casper talked about how he and Sean had first connected on a platform called Furfinity, an online community centered around the furry fandom, before moving the conversation to Skype. Sean, who went by Pommy, or Sonic Mega, online, was 23 at the time. His first message to Casper was sent through Skype at 2 AM on August 28, 2013, and it said in an uncomfortable tone.
Is this the part where I awkward type explicit roleplay paragraph and then send inappropriate photos while asking for free art, or am I doing this very thing wrong?
Now, as the conversation progressed, Sean allegedly sent suggestive audio recordings of himself to Casper, who was significantly younger than him at the time, and began asking inappropriate personal questions. Now, Casper wrote that he'd removed the recordings afterward, but still held other records of what had taken place.
I am young, and he's a grown man.
But this original post in 2013 was not paid enough attention to at the time, and for the next 5 years, the post sat mostly unnoticed. Then in 2018, the same story resurfaced in a subreddit called Anime Dubs, and it was at this point that Sean responded publicly for the first time. He didn't deny that a conversation had taken place, but argued that the person in the screenshot wasn't Casper at all. It was a woman named Melanie Harry, who went by several names online, including Purple Kekleon, or in short, PK. According to Sean, Melanie was an adult he'd previously worked with, who had turned on him after a falling out, and was using Casper's online presence to fabricate a story and destroy his character.
I would never send unsolicited material to someone, audio or otherwise, without getting a prior okay first. My career is too precious to me to risk it over something that's stupid.
This Reddit thread moved on, and when the story resurfaced on Tumblr the following year, it once again faded without reaching a wider audience. But 5 years later, when Vina brought it to X once again in July 2024, which was around 9 months after his character Kinger had become a fan favorite in the amazing digital circus community, Sean Chiplock had already built up his reputation, and so the scale was completely different. And on July 2nd, 2024, the next day, Sean responded by addressing Vina's post directly.
I refuse to continue to entertain and often repeated, long outdated, always on behalf of another accusation. Every year, I'm made to have to address this time and time again with clients, communities, colleagues. Every year I'm forced to revisit this, and the person who began it all, laying out every detail, because my literal career is on the line. Every year it is debunked.
He denied everything.
I did not do stuff to a younger person, and never have. Any claim otherwise is patently false.
And this post looked like the end of the whole situation, but Sean would unknowingly be met with a response from Casper on the same day.
I'm the Casper in these docs. I'm choosing to come forward to add credibility to these allegations. Sean Chiplock is a creep.
In his thread of posts, he confirmed he was significantly younger than Sean when everything happened, and wanted to come forward and put a name to the story. After answering the questions people frequently asked about his story, he said he didn't want to talk about the matter ever again. But Sean wanted closure, and within hours posted this.
Casper, if you'll permit me to speak with you, I would be grateful to have the conversation you should have been allowed about what you experienced. I want you to be able to properly express your frustrations, and to apologize for my own behavior.
Even though Casper didn't want to talk about his experience or anything related to it, again, he replied,
I don't want to have a private conversation with you. All I want from you is to stop deflecting the blame to PK. Admit the screenshots are real, and apologize.
Sean then responded in 2 posts. In the first he said he had no way to verify that the screenshots had not been edited, and in the second he added,
This doesn't change the fact that if I made you uncomfortable in any way, I'm genuinely sorry. I apologize for ever making you or anyone feel otherwise.
Now these back and forth replies had played out the whole day, and people in the comments were confused whether Sean was denying the allegations or admitting to them. But Sean was not yet done defending his name. On August 6, 2024, a month after the exchange with Casper, Sean published a document about the issue, going through everything in detail. His original claim that Melanie had fabricated the story using Casper's identity was gone. Now he was arguing something else entirely, that Casper had actively presented themselves as an adult across multiple platforms, with accounts listing ages of 18, 19, and 20, and had opted into content on sites that required users to self-identify as 18 or older. So in Sean's view, he had no reason to believe otherwise, and the two would lay low for the rest of the month. Then on August 30th, 2024, a community member going by All Hail the Queen Uwu on Instagram, who's called Queen by fans online, posted an announcement.
Finally, freedom. The false allegations between Sean Chiplock and Casper are finally over. They were very understanding to one another.
Now nobody had known it was happening, but she revealed that she'd been quietly working as an informal mediator between Sean and Casper since August 6th. The same day, Sean put up a statement, Queen listened to both sides of the story, and both parties made up and even approved of her posting this on Instagram. For Sean, this is what she had to say.
Sean acknowledged that he behaved inappropriately, but accusing him of doing stuff to someone over a 1-hour conversation that was 11 years ago is disgusting. Let people change and grow for the better. Sean apologized to Casper, and Casper forgives him.
Meanwhile for Casper
never wanted to spotlight, nor claimed that he was attacked by him. While yes, Casper did call Sean out, but at the same time he even defended Sean, confirming that Sean never knew his age. Leave Casper alone.
Queen's last message was not to the fans, but to Rena, the one who brought up the issue again.
It's really simple. Rena, you lied. This caused more harm than good. Sean got harassed, Casper got harassed, and Glitch Productions got harassed. People were demanding that Sean get recast. Once again, I'm really sorry, you too got harassed. Thank you for deleting the thread that caused this whole thing.
It turned out that Rena fabricated parts of the story to make it seem like Sean was actually doing stuff to Casper, when in fact Casper never saw their 1-hour conversation as anything close to that. According to fans on Reddit, Rena also pressured another user who went by Gremlin to substantiate her claims. However, the posts from Gremlin are no longer available. Now the case was put to rest, and despite everything, Sean kept his job at Glitch and even picked up new ones for other series. But the person in this next case would learn that company loyalty doesn't always go both ways.
Really great people and some of the best managers, and recently this place has become a nightmare.
For 6 years, Celeste Naughty Smith, a 38-year-old voice actress, had been bringing the character Tari to life across both the Meta Runner and the SMG4 series. As far as she knew, there were more opportunities ahead of her within Glitch Productions. But on February 24th, 2024, she found out otherwise.
I know the new voice actor is not your cup of tea, but please respect it. Tari's old voice actor is a teacher and already has kids now. She's busy taking care of her family, so I understand why SMG4 hired a new voice actor.
A fan named Dave Joe posted on Twitter that day asking people to be respectful towards the new Tari voice actress. Now Celeste saw this, and she responded 2 days later.
As the original voice of Tari, I am surprised as you are. I only discovered I had been replaced today. The whole narrative that I was too busy is not true at all.
She also said that she had nothing against the new voice actress, Lottie Byrne, who she described as a lovely person who deserved no blame for any of this. That same day, Robin Barry Carter, a content creator who ran a YouTube channel called Anime America and voiced SMG2 in the SMG4 series, posted to support Celeste during this time.
My Tari, you didn't deserve this. If you're that replaceable, then consider this my resignation as SMG2 effective immediately. You have my full support, Celeste. As voice actors, we deserve better.
Now comments filled the post, the most notable one by a user who had the username Gagilada. It was screenshots from Glassdoor, a website where current and former employees can anonymously review the companies they worked for.
Fun culture, unrealistic deadlines. Overworked, underpaid.
5 days had passed since the recast became public, but there was neither a statement nor an explanation from Glitch, and on February 29, 2024, Celeste posted her full experience working for the studio.
I had been abruptly removed from this role with no contact from the team.
She then reached out directly to Glitch co-founders Luke and Kevin, but received only a short message.
I received a message from Luke at the end of the day saying thanks for everything and sorry we didn't tell you, which as you can imagine was incredibly distressing after pouring my heart into Tari for 6 years. The reason was because the SMG4 pipeline was becoming more sporadic and they needed lines with shorter notice. Very confusing, considering I've never missed a deadline and never been unable to get the work completed.
When she asked why no one had spoken to her beforehand and why she had been given no chance to discuss any of these concerns, her messages remained unread. Then she reached out to Jasmine Yang, Glitch's voice director, who was responsible for casting and managing voice actors at the time. She initially told Celeste that she had nothing to do with the recast because she didn't work on SMG4, only on Glitch. But after Celeste's public about not knowing she'd been replaced, Jasmine messaged to say it was entirely her fault Celeste had not been told. In Celeste's words,
how can one be both unsure about the recast and also completely at fault at the same time?
Further into her statement, she also addressed the narrative that she'd stepped back because of her family. She said that being a parent was not a reason to stop making art, but a reason to make more of it, and that this kind of thinking had long been used to hold women back from succeeding in the workplace. And in the end, she closed her statement in character.
Don't worry guys, I'll be fine.
It was unknown whether Glitch would eventually respond, but people started to come out with similar stories. That same day, an anonymous post appeared on the Amazing Digital Circus subreddit, titled, "A statement from an anonymous Glitch Productions animator." This person, who we will call Alex, said that they worked for Glitch for just over 2 years, and described the moments things started to shift. The morale in the production team crumbled as we get pushed to our limits. Deadlines were incredibly unrealistic and unreasonable. There was barely any compensation to match it. If anything, we were rewarded with more work. Now on Kevin, they didn't hold back. He will take advantage of new artists and will burn them out within months. I saw firsthand the manipulation, mistreatment, and gaslighting tactics he used against the production team. Alex described Kevin texting employees late at night, expecting immediate responses, and the concerns they raised to upper management would come to no avail. But the criticism of Kevin was not limited to Reddit. On X, a user named A. Benner posted this:
"If I were to go back in time and tell SMG4 fans that Kevin would eventually become a corrupt, abusive CEO, nobody would believe me. #ditchglitch."
And one account who went by @Mario also posted a step-by-step guide showing fans how to watch SMG4 without supporting Glitch, and this spread quickly under the hashtag
#boycottglitch.
Throughout all of this, Robin had become the main voice for other animators who'd worked for Glitch in the past. Through the account Anime America, she'd been sharing their anonymous accounts as they came in, confirming that they were from real former employees. Now when Glitch finally responded, it first came from Jasmine in a Discord message, where she wrote that she'd forgotten to notify Celeste and took full responsibility for the mistake. But Celeste had already written in her previous post that Jasmine had already told her that she had nothing to do with the recast. These two accounts said the opposite of each other, and no further clarification ever came. But on March 4th, 2024, 9 days after the recast first became public, Kevin, Glitch's CEO, published a formal apology.
"We've been silent this past week, as I've been prioritizing, checking in on taking care of my internal staff, having multiple open conversations with the management/production teams, and assessing the entire situation. The last thing I wanted to do was rush out a half-assed statement."
After this, he mentioned that some staff had been harassed online by the community, and that he couldn't let that continue without addressing it. On the workplace allegations, he didn't dismiss them entirely, though he acknowledged that some claims were being exaggerated.
"I acknowledge and take full accountability that during the early years of Glitch, there was indeed a lack of experience, training and skill on my part, and the management structure I had at the time to run and operate a small animation studio."
He then brought up where it all started, and described the early days as a ramshackle studio, and apologized to anyone who had experienced hardship during that period. He said the studio had since built proper management team and introduced production coordinators, people specifically responsible for managing schedules and improving how they planned and scheduled work. He closed the statement with a direct apology.
"I'm deeply sorry to any past employee that feels dissatisfied with their time at Glitch."
Now most people kept watching their work. The amazing digital circus continued to grow, and the channel kept getting millions of views. But the conversation about how the studio treated its own staff didn't fully go away. For some fans, the images of those two brothers laughing on camera as teenagers and the studio they'd built were now two very different things. As for Celeste, she took a step back from voice acting and stopped posting on X, with her latest update being in January 23rd, 2025 on Instagram. And as for Glitch, they simply moved on. Every person in this case had a reason to be upset, but the people in this next case had nothing, not even a connection with the show. They only saw the cast list, picked names, and for years made life hard for those people.
I don't like to talk about this issue because talking about it makes it worse. It only emboldens bots even further to become more of a nuisance.
From the moment the amazing digital circus went viral, the voice actors behind its most beloved characters became recognizable to millions of people. Michael Kovac, the 30-year-old voice of Jax, Lizzie Freeman, the 33-year-old voice of Pomni, and Alex Racon, the 32-year-old voice of Kane, became people fans genuinely connected with. For most of the fandom, that recognition translated into support, fan art, and messages of appreciation. However, all three of them, along with Cooper, aka Gooseworks, the creator of the show, had no way of knowing that the same recognition would also make them targets of a notorious bunch of people known for bothering YouTube creators from late 2023 onwards. The group responsible is called the UTTP, short for YouTube Troll Police. This is not really a single organized group with official members, but more of an online community of trolls that had been around for years, and their history made one thing clear: they didn't stop at harassment. They were also known to hack YouTube channels through malware downloads, share illegal content involving younger people, and force younger people to do bad things. By the time they set their sights on the amazing digital circus, this was a group that had already shown what it was capable of. Within the UTTP, a person calling himself General Glenn, who went by the username Clask, ran a website called Skibbity Farms. This served as a meeting point where members would coordinate their attacks against the amazing digital circus cast and fandom. And on the 2nd of June 2025, he made a post on the website saying,
"It is imperative that we fight this evil Tutsi fandoms of the amazing digital circus. Post proof of participation below."
Participation in the raids was expected of every member. The approach was to flood the personal social media accounts of Michael, Lizzie, and Alex with disturbing and harmful content day after day, through the replies and comment sections. And members of the UTTP would also leave comments and make posts saying stuff like,
"Skibbity Farms content is way better than your indie slop."
Glenn would also keep on posting about the campaign against the voice actors, with detailed instructions for everyone who wanted to participate.
Reply to every single one of every single Glitch Productions employees' media posts.
And Michael was the only one out of the three who addressed the situation on X in November of 2023.
The good old UTTP is at it again and are now targeting me. If you see him, just block and go about your day. Cheers.
But the UTTP wasn't the only problem the show's success had created. Multiple anonymous YouTube channels with no verified connection to the UTTP had been mass producing inappropriate Amazing Digital Circus content and pushing it toward younger viewers. These channels claimed that they were making videos out of love for the show, and viewers searching for the Amazing Digital Circus were finding materials like this sitting alongside real content from the studio in their recommendations. This had been going on from 2023 until today, but Cooper had already been aware of it since the pilot went viral and initially chose not to address it directly. And by December 23rd, 2023, she posted,
"You guys keep sending me the worst content farm stop imaginable. I like genuine fan content, by the way, but it's just getting really hard to find in the endless sea of soulless trash."
This had some people from the fandom wanting to know why nothing was being done about it, and this question would be answered in her later post on Tumblr in early 2024.
"I've talked to Glitch about it when they first started showing up, but nothing will be enough to stop them. I can be your scapegoat if you want, but it's not going to change anything."
Then on May 25th, 2025, about a year and a half after Cooper's Tumblr post, the UTTP crossed the line that it had been building towards for almost 2 years. Someone on the Skibbity Farms website posted what they claimed was Lizzie's home address, along with a photograph of her house, and General Glenn publicly praised them for it. And whether Lizzie knows about this or not is unknown, because she never responded to it publicly, and no reports of anything happening at that address have ever come out. By July 2025, the issue with the UTTP gained a lot of coverage on YouTube, but remained unaddressed with neither arrests nor charges taking place, as the UTTP's campaigns against the shows is still active as of May 2026. On the other hand, the anonymous YouTube channels are still posting, and considering how big the Amazing Digital Circus has grown, almost anything can happen next.